Regularly back in here. The wind ain't really backward because of the trees here, but you can see down there that the crops are moving just a little bit. It's coming in from the northwest. And we were talking about the beans ain't doing very good because they want heat and a lot of light. And they didn't do very good. I thought they'd do a little better in here. Lettuce and spinach are doing really good, but the beans ain't doing too hot. So here's your wind braces that he was talking about. And when we built these, the holes were 3 foot deep, 2.5 foot deep. We put 6 inches of gravel in it in case any condensation got in here. 2 feet of concrete. And we put these braces on here, put the pipes across, and then we just put a couple of foot screws here, insert in here, and that's how we put it together. Welded this. That took a little bit of time. It was about 114 degrees, so it's really hot. But and I think we got about 187 hours into this thing, but most of that was because we didn't know what we were doing. But so that is basically the deal here. The straps. Can we move around here? What the straps we're talking about, they haven't got any pressure on them. There's no pressure there on them. And it's the same way with these hooks on the bottom, they're just there. And in a 40-mile-an-hour wind, we ain't got the wind today, but you get a little lift, but not bad. And our original design was we was going to make it 40 by 90, and I got just a little. We're gonna make. Okay, I got just a little skittish about it because I thought we'd get too much pipe movement on these pipes back here. So we cut it down 2 feet on each side, so it's 36 by 90. But I can't see that would have been a problem. We could have went ahead and done it easy enough. 18 feet between this, 9 feet for this one. This deal here is just a wind brace or just a bracer. I was going to make the whole thing 6 foot tall. And Stacy talked me out of it because he said it wasn't tall enough. I says, well, if you're 6 foot tall and you're in here, you're supposed to be working anyway. You're not supposed to be cracking your head. So, but anyway, he won. He got 7 foot tall, and it's probably a good thing he did because when I walk through here, I have a tendency to duck all the time. So Friday was the first day we picked in here. We picked some off of here. We picked one row of lettuce right there, and we picked the 4 rows of spinach. Nice quality, good quality. So, yeah, this is 9, and then 18 to the center, and then our spacings here are 10 down the sides, 10 feet. So that's a lot better than 20. You have a lot more strength that way. And then we didn't know how we were going to put this pipe down here, so we went downtown and manufactured punching through plates here. So then we just put a weld here, weld down the sides, and then set the pipe here, close the pipe, and it's done deal.
So as I said, most of the commercial ones are going to be on grids of about a 20 by 20. Terry's here, if you'll notice, is 9 foot by 10 feet. He did use a heavy steel, so this one is going to be quite durable in high winds and everything. But you'll want to keep that in mind when you're looking at those off-the-shelf ones. You see those 20 by 20 grids, but when we go to that, we'll have to go with heavier gauge steel. I've noticed they start usually at about 2 3/4 inch diameter steel, 12 or 14 gauge, so quite thick. So you can see why on the way they designed them.
These pipes are 2 inch, We thought about going bigger, but I don't know. I didn't think that we needed to, and I was kind of glad we didn't now, because it was easy to work with.
One thing I was telling you about is the way that Terry did get the shade to fasten on. He added the steel pipes you'll see over here down along the ground, and that's what he's using for his retainment. Because remember I said that you can use either bungee cords. He used these, what they call bungee balls, I think is what they're called. You'll see those through a variety of suppliers. But he put those pipes down low. One, you had extra pipe, is that right? Or did you plan on it?
Yeah, we had a little extra.
He had some extra pipe, so he put it on the bottom, and it worked out quite well for him, something to stretch on there. He has two different shades. He has a shade only for the side walls, and then you have one on the roof, right? So if Terry wanted to, he could remove just the shade on the side wall and allow for a lot of air movement through here and keep the top on. Or in the fall, if he wants lots of light on the top, but he's worried about wind, he can take the top off and leave the sides on. So that's what he did on this here.
The thing that I shouldn't have done, I ordered the fabric like we was going 40 foot wide, and then we decided to go 36. The 2 foot down on the side ain't cool. We should have never come that far. We should have had a 19 or an 18 and a half or something like that, because that's a lot of light that's not getting in. So it could have been a lot less than that.
Anybody have any questions? One thing that Terry had to do is he went with the 9 foot spacings primarily because you're rototilling, is that right? So, you know, even though it says 10 foot spacings, you'll notice that on that paper that I gave you when you read it later, if you didn't throw it away already, now when you set these up, it may, you know, maybe you want to do something like Terry did, which was 9 foot spacings, because his row's on 36-inch centers, so it worked out nicely. You'll notice that he has a lettuce row right there along that post, because we don't want those posts to be in the way when he's trying to run his equipment. So that's one nice thing about custom engineering your own. Now, one limitation he does have is on the far end. You'll notice that he's got wind bracing on both corners, and I didn't convince him right to do that. But he did. Did you make that one where you could remove that one brace?
But just hold it on.
Yeah, he does have those. Yeah, he has those bolted on. So as I said, he has the flexibility of pulling those bolts out. Just probably 2 bolts, right? One on each end. And he could pull that wind brace out. And that way he can go on and run his tiller straight through this whole structure if he wanted to.
But I haven't got a tractor.
Terry, can your tractor can that guy that comes, can he get through here, or do you do this all by hand?
I was going to go to 6 foot, you know, and they talked me into 7, but I'm 6 inches too short. His safety deal is too high. So, but we can take a torch to that. That's not a problem.
There's 2 bolts and it folds down.
Yeah.
So as Terry was saying, the limitation he had was his bringing a tractor in there. They have the roll bar probably, or safety, whatever. Some of them do fold down, but on the other end, you'll notice most of the commercial shade units available start usually at 10 foot height too, so that allows you to get your equipment in. Get another question.
Has anybody ever done any study on making a portable one?
Portable shade?
Yeah.
Question is on shade, portable shade, and that could be probably fairly easily done. The projects next year, we have 2 projects that we're working with. One of them is clear out far west at, what town?
Near Sydney.
North of Sydney a few miles. It's a fun drive. But anyway, there's a portable high tunnel that they're putting in up there that's on a track that's going to be pulled. South of Lincoln, though, we have a different type of structure that's going to go up that has the posts are going to be installed into the ground, and then it runs a cable and guy wire system. So it should be one that could be, it's kind of like those augers that you auger in the cable to strap it down to the ground. It's just going to go up and over the pole. So that one would be more easily moved within the field, and that one's going to be, is that about an acre that they're going to put under shade? So this is just one method to do it. Next year it's a little bit different. It's going to be a less rigid structure, Not going to have any side shade on it. It's just going to be a top structure, and there will be some limitations with that one because of how much spread. I think it's 20 foot on centers is what the posts are going to go on that one. So that'll be interesting next year to see that one.
In terms of mobility for the whole structure in the nurseries and some of the cut flower groups, they'll have cemented in piers in the ground, the pole, so that this all comes out, so they can have a clear field. And then when they need to put the shade structure up, they put just like they do on the high tunnels. You know, you have a base, a ground pole, put this on and bolt it in the corners.
Some of the new structures,
but not generally, it's not this heavy of a steel.
right? Some of the new structures I'm seeing have a ground post now that has an auger on it, and some of them will just attach to your PTO shaft on your tractor and low speed, and it'll just auger your ground post straight in the ground. The Agro company has high tunnels that are built that way, but I'm starting to see some structures like that. Something a farmer that wants to get into some manufacturing could even do is put a spin plate on the bottom, because the main thing is a little bit of downward push. There's not going to be any downward push really on Terry's structure here because he just has a shade cloth. But if the cable system that we see next year, I caution the farmer on that one, that when he goes to tension up the cables with his turnbuckles, he could pull his pipes down into the ground. So he's got to have some method to prevent that from happening, and I think that one's still in the process of design right now. I'm thinking hopefully later this year we'll see it put up. So, but that's a great question, yeah. Go out and walk around and take a look. You can look around outside on the back of the structure, take a look at how it's fastened. Terry is here. He'll tell you about his drama putting this up. He did use raw steel that was not treated. So he does have a primer on there now. So after he constructed it, he's primed it. You'll notice a few areas where he didn't have primer yet, and it's starting to show a little bit of rust. It's in his particular needs to meet his farming operations he has here. Some of you growers might be smaller and want a small type of system. And as I pointed out, you can use something as simple as a curb frame structure. You can use those key clamps, like I said, and make a very small structure quite affordably. Keep in mind that on this particular one, he's got shade clear down to the ground on it, so he can grow his crops right up next near to the side. If he didn't put the shade cloth on the side walls, he would have some bit of limitation on his side walls, so you would want to make the shade cloth larger than the area in which you want to grow your plants. If you're a large grower, then there are some large structures. Like I said, next year we'll have that opportunity to see a cable type structure, a bit more expensive in its design. It is flexible though in that it can be removed, and I think the goal of the farmer next year is he wants to cover 1 acre in 1 year, and then he wants to move it to another acre when he does his crop rotation. So Terry has set up his production where it's always going to be in the same spot, but if you want to get into crop rotation, then that'd be something you'd want to consider too. Use his farmer instinct carefully, right? So when he knows that there's going to be a lot of heavy snow, he's not going to be really worried about his structure, because I think he can put a tank on top of this thing. However, the fabric is what his concern is going to be. He doesn't want that snow to catch on it, so he's going to stretch his season as long as he needs to, but keep in mind he doesn't want to limit his light, so he may be apt. This will be your first year really producing, or when did you take it out last year?
I left the shade cloth on a long time last year. We planted it and we picked it one time, and then it froze. We got 17 degrees for 2 nights, so it was pretty much done. But I left the whole thing set up because I just wanted to see what it'd do. And we left it on probably until, it was late, it was really late, probably in November, maybe even. And we did have one rain this year. It was a little slushy. I was worried about that one. It was down in here a lot. So it don't take much to sag it, but.
Did you notice any frost protection from this at all?
At 17, no.
No, but I mean at 28?
Yeah, I suppose at 28 it probably would a little bit. 28, 29 would probably be norm.
So I was just asking Terry whether or not he saw any sort of frost protection somewhat on this, and he said around 28 degrees or so, yeah, the frost would probably collect on top rather than down inside here. So the shade cloth actually probably held the temperatures in just a tad. So yeah, he got a little bit of frost protection. I was thinking about maybe putting a white remay on there, but it seemed like a lot of work to put that on. So yeah, so once he has a good balanced farmer instinct, then he'll know when to take that shade off. Anybody notice that one side is not the same as the other? Did anybody notice that? Raise your hand, you get a bonus point. Oh, Dr. Hodges caught it. Anybody else?
On the bottom.
On the bottom. Rebar one side and pipe on the other. Actually, when Terry was building this, he decided to fasten his shade on the bottom utilizing the rebar, right? Is that what you're going to do originally? And when he put that on there, one rebar wasn't enough because we talked about the strength of the metals. Rebar is quite affordable, but with that length, when you have 10 feet in there, it kind of gave a lot of lift, right? And did you put a second one over there to see if that would help? And it just, he was not satisfied with it. He had a few pieces of metal because he bought it by the pound or whatnot, and he ended up with a few extra links. So on the other side, he did put the round pipe, which you'll notice, which he's quite happy with, I think. And you're considering maybe changing the other side. So we don't want to talk down about anybody's project. I think he did a great job here, but from it we all can learn how to make the project better. So yeah, he can improve it by changing that over there to a solid pipe.
And another thing that if you are going to do this, don't use the bungee cords. I don't know what to tell you on that, but they deteriorate really bad. We had to replace a bunch of them this year already.
Just the black
And
ones? Yeah, because
they just don't last very long.
red ones for portions, they
We're
cost,
looking for something else. I don't know what it's going to be, but
they're not just plastic, they have
we're
several
looking.
plastic strands in them, and then they got like.
So Terry talked about that bungee cord not holding up real well, and it probably has to do with the product that's made of. It's not UV stable, so it's going to deteriorate and come apart. So
Maybe it was
on campus, when I had built a shade unit from scratch to use for a research project we were doing, I used UV stable baling twine, the heavier gauge for the big round bales. And if you're careful about sizing your shade fabric, he has an additional 2 feet on either end just because they made a last minute modification on their structural size. But if he would have been closer to his pipe like you see on the end wall, he could have very easily looped his baling twine through and around. And I used to have my student hourlies that worked for me, and they would go through and just kind of weave it on. It was kind of nice because you could cinch it up, kind of like your shoes. You know, you could tighten it as much as you want or loosen it. So and there are different gauges of that baling twine. I always use the heavier. There was a heavy orange one that we used to use. That is real cheap. You can use it 1 year, and then when you're done, you just go out there and cut it off real quick. So, anybody else have any other questions? Appealed to KC and the rest of the group on grant selection was Terry and his lovely wife Kathy. We're looking at multiple reasons for this shade, so it wasn't just to reduce on the temperature and the wind, but one concern was you had just gotten hailed out like the previous year or something, so hail was a huge thing. On the side note, with lettuces, you know, it's a visible quality type crop. We don't want to have the damages and the extra dirt and all that. When it does rain, it comes in and it hits this fabric and it becomes a really light mist underneath of here. So instead of these hard beating down rains that will flatten this lettuce down, it reduces the speed of the water coming down and diffuses it. So he gets a nice moisture infiltration into his water, into the soil here, and his lettuce. So.
Anything else we're forgetting?
Anyway, we use ladybugs a lot. We buy them by the thousands to control aphids, and they do good outside, but in the greenhouses, it must be too hot. They don't like it at all. And I'm hoping maybe they'll stay under this a little better. And that would be a big plus, because that would mean we wouldn't have to spray or anything like that. Because I ain't found any spray that's really good on ladybugs yet. So.
Look at his shade unit, but the interesting thing about Terry's operation here is you'll notice a variety of structures. So Terry's always willing to try new things and different things. And he has that far house down there. He's got his tomatoes in. He has that subsoil heating in there, and he has that tall structure, and he didn't quite like the height of that, right? He doesn't like the height of the next one. So then he's got a couple of these lower houses here which work quite well early season, but you probably, as the season goes on, they get a little hot in there because the roof is so low. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is Terry has a lot of experience in a variety of things here, and he can tell you the pros and cons. And like I said, I didn't give you clear specifics on how you should do your shade. You just need to pick one that's more appropriate to what your operation is going to have. Terry's working out what works best for him. These high tunnels down here on the end, they're low structures, are really nice for easy season production, early season production. But as we get into the later season, it's a little hard to get air through that, isn't it? Yeah, and it tends to get a little hot in there. So, you know, so yeah, it's cool. It's nice to have the tall structure down on the far end, but it's really expensive to heat that thing up early. Not to mention the temperature stratification in the structure. So he starts out down here on the far end, or down here near us, and it's great early on, but as the season progresses, it becomes a problem. So Terry has actually developed quite a production plan here. So every time you see him at the farmer's market, he's always got something available, and it's because he has a variety of structures here. And he's part crazy, right? He's part crazy, right? Quite the talented person, and I know I came from a construction family myself, so I tend to try and build stuff. So I work with a good share of growers that like to build things on their own. Terry had the resources here. I think locally you were able to get the steel, is that correct? And he has resources of a company that could punch out this metal that he designed here. It's not something that all of us have available to us, and it may not be something that we're comfortable with doing or even want to do. So like I said, I pointed out like Grower Supply or Farm Tech, Polytech, Hummer, Stuppies, they all have what's called pre-engineered structures. Terry doesn't have any engineering on this particular structure, so we don't know what the wind load and all that fun stuff would be. His particular area he's zoned in probably doesn't require any building code information.
She was on the board.
She was on the board, so she approved it. She got her stamped it out there and ready to go. But not all of us have that capability. Some of our counties are zoned, some of our areas we're in the zoning, so you have to be careful of that. Some of these companies will already have pre-engineered drawings if they need to have that in order to get through your structure putting up. The other thing is some of us are just, we're really good with our kids at Christmas and knew how to put stuff together, and some of us needed the instructions of how to put it together. Yeah, so doll houses are a pain. Anyway, so by buying a pre-engineered structure, as Ryan Pekarik so aptly said, he has one structure that he put on his farm, and we're dealing with that on another location that Casey and I are working at. The instructions are a little bit difficult to work. They're a disaster to work with. So, you know, I don't want to push any certain company one way or the other, but get an idea of what you're going to work with, because some companies have very good instructions. I know Polytech's, if you just want to see some good instructions, go on to the poly-tex.com website and look in their resources page, and they have all their construction instructions there, and they're very specific. Some people don't want to read through 24 pages, but boy, that's how I started in the industry, is just following that line by line, and it makes a lot of sense. So
Stuppies are pretty much the same way too.
Stuffies are good.
Stuppies is the same way.
Drawing.
The one thing about Stuppies, which is amazing, is when you order anything from them, everything is in a little bag with a number on it. So it'll say like 1-36415. And when you're reading the instructions, it says you need 2 of that particular number. So the big pain is when you get the pallet full of metal and this box of stuff, you got to lay it out in some organized manner. But when you go putting it together, there's really no question about what should go where. So yeah, Polytex is not like that. I've run into troubles. I've put up a couple of their structures, and sometimes they'll be missing a few things. I think that's purely accidental, but I think that's where Stuppy, who's a little more expensive, tends to have less of those mistakes involved, because everything is quite analytical in the way they do that. So whatever your comfort zone is how you can do it. Terry did this on his own. Like I said, there's some resources out there, the key clamps, that'll make it fairly easy. You can get the metals locally at different places, or if you want to just buy one turnkey, see if you can find one that's already pre-designed for you. Just remember though that, you know, Terry changed his design a little bit, 9 feet, so that he could work with the way that works best for him. Ryan may have a different piece of equipment that requires different spacing. So we'll want to make sure that whatever you do use, that it'll help your farm and not be a detriment, I guess.